All right, so just to give you a little bit of background about who we are and why we do what we do. Allegra Group, we're a business that was started 20 years ago. It's still a micro business, but it's a business that I'm quite proud of in that it provides sort of information and connections in the coffee industry that we think helps the coffee industry. But we're also very grateful for everyone in the coffee industry who supports what we do. And we're all on a common journey, I think, in this industry. And it's at times, very changing and challenging times, but perhaps exciting times ahead. I'm going to give you a little bit of data from our Project Cafe report. It's a report that our team have put together, the Allegra World Coffee Portal research team have put together. It's a bit disconcerting to get up in front of a bunch of global people and also quite a few Americans to talk about the American coffee shop market, so challenged me. This is the data that's been presented. This is our fourth report on the US market, and it does look at the very big picture of the market. So I know there are a lot of coffee geeks in the market, and so some of these trends might be sort of very broad for what, we're talking about the big market here. And then we've got a lot of great speakers, and a big thank you to all the speakers who are coming out to share the knowledge, just as I am today with you. Okay, the report series is part of a series of global reports. We're always biting off more than we can chew as a business, and I think that's the coffee industry as well, those businesses that have made it. So producing reports all over the world to try and get a global perspective of coffee, because we are in a global world, and just by sheer definition of what coffee is, it's a global product. A little bit about our methodology. We spoke to a bunch of people and consumers in industry and kind of made this research. But what is staggering is that the US coffee shop market is a 45 billion industry, which is awesome, and it's kind of why we're here and why we're launching festivals and launching research. Some market, a land of opportunity, huge. The burgeoning market of the US is something that provides a lot of opportunity. A market that has grown steadily. It's mature to some degree, very mature to some degree, but a lot of change. And we're going to talk a little bit in a few minutes about the fifth wave and try to get our vision of what the fifth wave is and why it's important for your businesses, but also why it's going to have a huge impact on the rest of this very settled and very mature market. Some of the big names, Starbucks, we can love them, admire them, sometimes criticize them, but they're a major force globally across the world, and they will continue to be, and they're still growing here in this marketplace. In the sort of food-focused segment as well, some big players, nowhere near as concentrated, but we are seeing this incredible, two things going on in the US market is this concentration of outlets, mega concentration, but then this new emerging set of new exciting businesses. I know we've got Nick Stone here from Bluestone Lane, that's one of those businesses that is starting to change the dynamic, and there's a lot of those coming through, which we'll talk about later. And we think, even at sort of modest growth in this branded chain market, we think we're going to get to 40,000 outlets in the next 5 years and be something looking like close to a 60 billion market. So again, lots of opportunity. The industry, always optimistic, and 71% of those that we polled for our research reported increased sales in the last 12 months. Now, you'd have to ask, who are those people that are not The 29%, who are they? And that, they're the businesses that need to work on their brand, their model, their execution, and a whole lot of other things. There are plenty of those around the world that we see businesses that are not quite adapting. The environment, again, a critical issue. That sustainability, that science tells you in most cases that this is a very, very important issue. The industry's got it, but I think I'll show you some data in a minute from consumers. I'm not sure they've completely got it. But I believe we have a responsibility to help them unlock sort of some of the sustainability issues that we as a group of human beings need to address. So now onto the consumer research. 18% of those the 5,000 American citizens that we polled visit daily a coffee shop, and at about 60% weekly. So clearly coffee in the United States, but this is mirrored in many other parts around the world, accentuated in the United States, visit coffee shops. In many cases, there may be more people that visit a coffee shop than watch TV. So it's a major channel of engaging with human beings. So what would encourage consumers, I'll just brush over this data really quickly because I know we're short of time, but coffee is one of the big factors that encourages consumers to visit a coffee shop. The taste is becoming a big thing, and consumers knowing what they like, becoming more confident. What would encourage you not to visit? Again, not liking that taste. So I think if I was a coffee shop owner, I would be really seriously thinking about the taste of the coffee. Now, I know this sounds, really basic, but developing that personal flavor profile that's right for your customers and may not be right from others, you've got to have the confidence. Other factors, diminishing customer experience. Why wouldn't I go back? Service, hygiene, a lot of other factors that we all know. But what we are seeing in data across the globe is that consumers are having a great set of reasons why they visit a coffee shop and why they won't visit a coffee shop. It's becoming more complex, and hence the fifth wave thinking. I think I mentioned consumers getting more sophisticated in their tastes. What we're seeing, and it's not just in the US, but we see it over in Europe, is consumers being able to describe more and be more confident in what they think is a good coffee. Because I remember back in those early days when I started thinking, we started Allegra 20 years ago now, but it was about 25 years ago that I was on campus at the University of Houston and Rice University, and saw the coffee carts and I got excited. But it was just then about a cup of coffee. It was probably adding a bit of flavor, but it was just coffee. Now it means a lot more to consumers. Again, don't forget the reason why people visit you is because it's convenient, so location is absolutely critical. But coffee quality is right up there. What are people, again, this is broad data, and this is fascinating data from a global context because this US data, purchasing coffee to go out numbers purchasing coffee to drink in, and that's very different from other parts of the world. So for those who are getting your head around the US market, something just to take note of. The black filter coffee being absolutely still there, but a whole variety of beverages now becoming much, much more important to consumers. Iced coffee in particular, cold brews, and blended iced coffees, really, really important to the new era of customers. The millennials, we'll talk about new era of customers in a minute, and a set of customers that you can't ignore. Average spend that we noted across, again, this is broad numbers, 6.25 average spend. I don't know how that compares to your businesses, But we did see that because customers said, 68% saying, price does affect me, but I am willing to pay more for quality coffee. Here's a challenging one for the environment. We all know that we have issues with, it's challenging, even here today, paper cups, washables, etc., plastics, etc. We all know this is a serious issue for humankind. And how do we get customers to maybe use renewal, to be more environmentally conscious? It looks like here, by this data, that the way to unlock the consumer's sensitivity around the environment is to help them with offers or something, because the data here really isn't about I'm craving, I will, you would hope to say, I'm going to help the environment because I want to help the environment, but that's not really the main driver of customers' thinking. They do care about it, and it's very important. You have to embed it in your business. If you don't, you may not have a good business. You certainly won't be a fifth wave brand. So I think you have to be creative in how you actually help your customers to be more sustainable. Okay, that's enough of our US report. It's a report about that thick, Project Cafe USA, and it's a lot more detail, and a big thank you to the Allegra team over there in London who have produced all this global research, and a lot of hard work's gone into it, so there's a lot more in there than just what I presented now. Now looking at global trends. Fifth wave. Now we have coined the term fifth wave. We've put this sort of structure of the industry, and people have kind of challenged us, criticized us, said, well, what about the fourth wave? What about the third wave? What about the sixth wave? And we still think that this is a very powerful concept to focus on and to think about. And I think I'd also like to clarify, we probably need to get some YouTube videos up there and explain what we believe the fifth wave is. It's not just about we're all going to be having the finest coffee and all complete connoisseurs, but it's about embedding some form of boutique experience into your business. We are now in a world where the experience economy is really shaping the lives of human beings. And so you have to embed that experience. Now, whether you're Dunkin' Donuts, or whether you're Bluestone Lane, or Department of Coffee and Social Affairs in London, or whether you're a local cafe in any other part of the world, you need to try and deliver that boutique experience. And it's relative to the context in which you operate. It's not just about being fancy and boutique, but it's about uplifting the standards and the quality of what we deliver relentlessly and always. It's about connecting with a much more savvy audience. It's about investing in technology. It's missing that science, art, and tradition endlessly. And it's about focusing on excellence. And it doesn't matter whether you're there for a lane in the, Greg's in the UK, or maybe big opportunity for McDonald's in the US who talk about coffee, but haven't yet executed that coffee excellence. There are opportunities everywhere. But there are also opportunities for the likes of Blue Bottle, Stumptown, and Verve, and all these other companies that are sort of these micro emerging chains. Just some of the driving trends. There are a lot of trends. It's a very complex market at the moment. I just picked, I think it's 5. I did want to add a 5th one, but it didn't go onto a slide. But it was the influence of women, I think, is going to be a big one. And so it's left off, but not ignored. So I'll just leave that one there with you. on our society. But the big moment in this industry, and the thing you'd have to be blind to see, some people crazily still don't know the word JAB Holdings, J-A-B. There are people out there in the coffee industry that haven't yet heard of this massive behemoth that controls so much of the coffee industry. And let's have a conversation about that later. But it's also about Starbucks' partnership with Nestle. It's about Coca-Cola acquiring Costa Coffee, Lavazza, Mars Drinks. This market is consolidating very rapidly. In 2018, Starbucks, Dunkin', and JAB Holdings control 80% of the branded coffee shop market. That's massive. But there are these underlying trends that we're seeing, the craft boutique concepts, whether it's Verve or Bluestone or Blue Bottle or others, really starting to eat into the market of the bigger players. Still very boutique and niche. So there's two things going on, but the consolidation of this market is a very, very important trend. Also, increasing urbanization, I think it provides massive opportunities. People are moving back into cities. Cities are becoming incredibly thriving, wonderful places to be. Los Angeles is a great example of that. There's not tremendous amounts of high-rise, but you can see it even in the time when I came here in January to find a location, and luckily we found this one. Some of these buildings weren't here. They were much lower. And there's going to be a lot more coming, but all over the world, we're creating these new urban spaces that are providing opportunities for coffee shops under each one of those. And as these apartments get smaller, and as consumers need places to be, coffee shops become community spaces, and that's a great opportunity. But cities are going to get better and better, and those that can actually grab space in some of these environments are going to be the winners, the next winners. A new consumer generation, and we talk about the millennials, but I think probably the most important thing I'd like to take away from this slide is this is a lot of, just a couple of points, what could be hundreds of points on this new era. It's not just about millennials, it's about this new behavior set. It's about this stripped back, seamless, technology-embedded consumer that has a lot of power at their fingertips, has a lot of information, has a lot of digital connectivity, hungry for knowledge, but at the same time, fear of missing out. And this is not just the millennials now. This is us as well. We'll talk about screen time in a minute. But if you can't understand the new consumer landscape, you won't survive. And hence why fifth wave thinking, we think, is exceptionally important. Consumer-centric technologies, the embedded, this sharing economy, the app-based, of course, social media, the Internet of Things, making life seamless. Whether you're going to a coffee shop now, and it's just everything's so easy. I think it's not far from, it's talked about that, you'll just be able to walk in, and I think we are going to get to a world where you'll just walk into a coffee shop and drink a coffee, and you won't transact. You'll just do. And I think the seamlessness of fluidity of our lives is going to be huge, and it'll come upon us faster than we think. As I was leaving the apartment this morning, I kind of went back and I thought, forgot something. My pants. No. I better go back and get them. Went back into the apartment and got what I needed, a pen. Who needs pens any days anyway? And I switched off the light, and I had this sort of aha moment that this new era of millennials, they don't want to switch off lights. They just want to walk out and the light goes off. Now, we have this technology already, but many of us, including myself, are still doing a lot of things in the old ways. So that's this technology, embedded technology is going to be huge. Health and wellness. Again, we have a huge interest in this as a group. We have a balance festival and a wellness festival that hopefully all you in the Los Angeles scene are going to see it. We've got one in London. We really think that this is a mega trend, the whole wellness trend. But again, probably the main takeaway from like you get from this slide, it's not just about removing the nasties. It's not just about pretending to be healthy. It's actually not even just about healthy. It's about an embedded wellness that's centered on, so wellness is way more than just what we're eating and way more than what we're doing with our bodies, exercise and fitness, etc. It's a lot more than that. It's about having the time and space to be a human being. It's about how we work and where we work. It's about being in control of your destiny. It's without the clutter, which I think is the embedded technology that helps a lot of that. So again, challenge ourselves to think about what wellness means in our businesses and even within our employees as well, because our employees are huge stakeholders in our success. Finally, just want to leave you with a few, what I think are things to think about and how this could impact our, all the opportunity we have at the moment. First one I think is social inequality. We've probably never lived in an era where there is so much difference between those that have and have not. Whether it's the big mega, I'm going to have a very popular name, Jeff, with the most, the richest man in the world now, called Jeff. I think it was one of those fading names, but I don't think, numbers may not stack up or not, but that level of wealth, when, say, here in America, only a couple of blocks down, it's outrageous. It's egregious. It's shocking, So how does this happen? And what does that mean? And without being, getting on the political bandwagon, I think there are some crazy things going on that are leading this, and why we have some of the tensions in government, etc., that are potentially kind of the root cause of and the dangers that we have. And I don't want to be doomsday, but I don't think I've ever seen in my life a time when I'm so concerned about all the tensions that there are out there. Whether it's, in the UK where based Brexit just seems nonsensical. And there are other things, and there was a shooting yesterday in Los Angeles. It's crazy, but it's very dangerous times. And I think, I don't know what we do about it, but it is very dangerous times. I don't think a third world war is an unrealistic option. I don't think it's unrealistic as a scenario. But we got to get on and run our businesses. But it's just, I think we need to maybe think about the social inequalities as maybe a root solution. The other one I think is very, very important to think about is the rapid rise of change. It's phenomenal. Never has the human mind had so much to deal with. our ability to adapt, I just can't fathom how we are adapting to this pace of change. And I think, and I know, and I believe in what I see from all over the world, I don't think we are adapting as fast as we don't think we can adapt. Screen time, someone who has children, who's trying to protect my kids from screen time. But guess what? I have issues with my own screen time. This is crazy. And, from circles that I see, mental health concerns are huge. So, again, as businesses, how are we dealing with this? Are we helping our teams to deal with this as well? I just think this is something these are big picture things that, I think we should be worried about, at least plan for how we are going to adapt and solve in our own little worlds, in our own communities. This is fascinating. This was from a BBC website, the BBC main site that I saw, and I thought, anyone know where this is? Fifth Avenue, Manhattan, 1900. I was almost there. Look at that. And if we think that some of the changes, whether it's driverless cars or all sorts of things that are going to happen, they'll happen in 20 years. I think, Guess what? I'm going to show you the next slide. Only 13 years later, how fast we adapted. Now think of how fluid life is and how fast we might adapt here. So the driverless cars, the drones, those scenarios may not be that far away. And finally, just the last thing to focus on, the last sort of risk in our world, the biggest risk of all, is to do nothing and actually not adapt. Thank you very much.